Hey guys, welcome to another video, and yeah, today we are picking up with where the last video left off. Um, the last video I did, we covered my top 10 favorite manga series, and today we are going to cover some of my favorite anime titles. So 10 of my favorites, or what I would consider to be my top 10 favorite anime titles. And believe me, it was a nightmare putting this together. So, yeah, let's just get right into it with number 10. Okay, so, just barely making the list here at number 10 is Wicked City. This is an odd one, guys. It really is. It's a 1987 horror movie, sci-fi horror action thriller type film. It was based on a novel, I believe the novel's called Black God. It's one of, I think, 6 written by a man by the name of Hideyuki Kikuchi, and I'm pretty sure I just butchered the name. It was directed by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, who, Kawajiri, and this was his first solo directorial effort. Of course, he was also the character designer, the animation, and the character designer, animation director, storyboard artist, and the screenwriter, although he wrote under a pseudonym, obviously. Okay, and it was released in 1987. Late 80s, early 90s stuff. Oh boy, here we go. Alright, so what's the story here? Well, think of it as Men in Black gone crazy. If you've seen the Men in Black films, you kind of have an idea of what this film is about. In essence, we have two worlds. We have our world, and we have the demon world. In the film, it's called the Black World. And there is like a war or something going on. Or there was a war that went on for a bit. And now, to keep the peace between the two sides, we have what's called the Black Guards. So that's where the novel's name came from, obviously. And these are guys who are basically just there to make sure that the peace is kept, that the demons don't go around killing people, and that the humans don't get caught in the middle of a demon fight and stuff like that. Now, for this particular film, the way this film is set up, at this point in the war, or the peace treaty, or whatever it is, there is a new treaty that has to be signed, and a VIP from the Black World has to come through. So these two Black Guards are assigned to protect him, and, well, let's just say it doesn't go very well. That's basically it. That's basically the whole plot. This VIP comes through from the Black World to sign a treaty, and these two Black Guards are assigned to protect him. Of course, this guy is just a nuisance, and he causes all kinds of problems for them, gets himself into a lot of trouble. This film is just full of uncomfortable moments. I'm not gonna lie. I had to look away a couple of times. You know, the first time I watched it, and even watching it like a week or two ago, I just got so uncomfortable that I had to actually switch it off and like go and watch it, get a cup of coffee. Oy, I'm getting confused here. The sense of humor in the film is off-putting, to say the least, or at least slightly off-putting. As if the rampant, like, rather gratuitous sexual content and the violence wasn't bad enough. And the violence is quite gory in this. But oddly enough, if I had to single out two elements, one would be the rather gratuitous sexual content, and the other would be the sense of humor. The humor is so inappropriate at certain points, and yet you laugh at it because of how inappropriate it is. You know it's inappropriate, but you know, the ending is a bit of an anticlimax. I'm not going to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but I felt it was a bit of an anticlimax. If you like sci-fi horror films like this, you know, with gory violence and a lot of sex or sexual content in general, with a bit of rather dodgy humor, then yeah, this might be one that's worth checking out. The animation style is a bit dated. Apparently it was initially only meant to be like a 35-minute OVA, and when the director showed some of the footage to the producing companies, they were so impressed that they increased the runtime. Well, for better or worse. I liked the film just fine. Not perfect, but you know, enjoyable just the same. Lord of the Rings gone anime. Do I really need to say anything else? Record of Lourdes War is apparently based off of a game series. I didn't even know this until I looked it up after the fact. I rewatched the series recently, and I wanted to put it on the list here. So I went and I read up on the series thinking, oh, it's an anime manga thing. But no, it's apparently based off of a series of fantasy role-playing games or some such. The more you know. Basically, the land of Lodos is under threat. There's a massive cataclysm on its way, and it's up to this young wannabe knight and a very small sort of ragtag group to put a stop to it before the land is destroyed. Basically, that's basically it. Not really much more to say. When the series was done, I think in 1996 or 1997. So the animation is a little bit dated. It definitely, looking back, it definitely has elements of a role-playing game in it, but the approach isn't bad. I like the animation. It's a little dated, but it's nice to look at. There isn't much to say on the plot. I'm not familiar with the games. as far as I'm aware, there aren't really any manga adaptations, although I'll have to go and look and see if I can't find any. But yeah, if you like a good fantasy series, definitely check this one out, because this series, I mean, it's short. It ran for, I think, 12 or 13 episodes originally. And they made a sequel series a short time later, which ran for longer. But this series definitely doesn't get enough attention, as far as I know. Oops. So yeah, check this one out if you like a good fantasy series. As I say, it's very underrated. It doesn't really get that much attention. So yeah. Okay, so coming in at number 8, we have one of the more obscure titles on this list. The Legend of Zorro, and this is an odd one. Again, this is one that is odd because you know what you want to say, but where Wicked City is odd because you don't know what you want to say about it or what you can say about it. This one, you know exactly what you want to say, and you just don't know how to say it. The series was filmed in between 1996 and 1997, and it was a joint a joint project between a studio called NHK and sorry, tongue-tied, Ashi Productions, and it was based on characters that were created by Johnston McCulley back in 1919, of all things. I mean, of course, the character of Zorro first appeared in The Curse of Capistrano in 1919. The series ran for 52 episodes, but only 46 of those episodes were ever aired in Japan. And after, as it was airing, it became very popular outside of Japan, particularly in places like Spain and Portugal. And if you've seen the series, you'll know, or if you're familiar with the character of Zorro, Spain and Portugal were the colonial powers in the series. Okay, so story, pretty simple. Diego de la Vega is the son of this Californian Don, this baron, I guess, is a good approximation. He returns home from being schooled in Spain and finds the Spanish army causing all kinds of trouble. You know, they're looting, and they're you know, just in general, they're not being very nice people. And so he kind of has to play two parts. Okay, so in the daytime, he's Diego de la Vega, this kind-hearted, meek, but rather he's kind-hearted, but he comes across as very unintelligent, very kind of just lazy, cowardly, you know. And then at night, or just in general, whenever there's trouble, which in this case is almost always, he becomes Zorro, this vigilante in a black mask with a sword, fighting against the oppression of the Spanish army. I saw this series as a kid, and I loved it. I actually grew up with it. It was a big part of my childhood, and I think a lot of people saw this as kids. The characters. I mean, I loved watching Diego and Lolita's interactions. I love the characters of Bernard and the Preto family and what's the housekeeper's name now? I can't remember her name, but she was also great. The villains, the Spanish soldiers. I liked them. I loved the character of Sergeant Gonzalez because he was just hysterical to watch. The music was great. There's always that one sequence, the gearing up sequence, where Diego becomes Zorro, and you get that really cool Spanish guitar tune, which you get to every episode, and you know that it's going to happen. You know you're going to get that scene. So you just sort of sit there and wait for it to happen. The sword fights, the action scenes were always really exciting to watch. And I believe I actually had the full series on cassette tape, on video cassette, way back in the day. But unfortunately, when you move around a lot, things get lost, and we moved around quite a bit, so the tapes slowly but surely sort of disappeared. So very unfortunate, because you don't really find it anymore, I don't think. Anyway, that's at number 8 on our list. Sorry, I had to just check the list off. Check the list here next to me. Alright, so moving on. Okay, so coming in at number 7, we have the Appleseed OVA. Based on what is it here? Just check my script here. See, I planned ahead this time. Yeah, based on Shiro Masamune's manga of the same name. This one was produced by a band. Is it Bandai or Bandai? I'm not quite sure on the pronunciation. Bandai Visual, and it was licensed by a company called Manga Entertainment. And wow, is it dated. This one is seriously dated. But it's still a lot of fun. The story basically follows, I think, almost exclusively 2 characters, Dunan Newt and I don't know if it's Dunan Newt or Dunan Nut, because sometimes you hear them say Dunan Newt, and then other times they say Dunan Nut. So, a little help on the pronunciation side there would be appreciated, guys. And her partner is Briareos Hecatoncheires. And these 2 work for ESWAT, the Extra Special Weapons and Tactics Squad, in a post-World War III utopian city called Olympus. Now, of course, if you've read the manga and you've seen the CG films and everything, then you know a lot more about the city. And basically, I mean, the city is basically run by one big supercomputer. So of course they're constantly fending off threats to this thing. And the plotline of this particular OVA basically follows them as they try to take down a terrorist who basically wants to destroy the city. That's it. He doesn't like the way the city is run. He doesn't like the fact that the most of the population of the city are bioroids. These sort of cybernetic humans in a way. So yeah, he wants to just blow up the city because it's never really explained, or at least it's explained, but I don't know, it just didn't really make sense to me. Okay, so music's okay, characters are sort of likable. The animation is really dated, but it is a lot of fun. It's dated, but it's nice to look at. Colors are very rich. There isn't really much that I can say here. I read the first two books, the first two books in the Appleseed series, the first two volumes of the manga, and I've read some of Masumine's other work as well. So yeah, I am sort of familiar with his work, but this was definitely a change in pace, I think. It's definitely a lot more serious in some regards, at least the manga is. So yeah, overall, I mean, the story is a little bit flat at times. We see certain things that aren't really explained. There are some minor plot holes. With all that said, this is still a fun watch. So yeah, not bad, not great, just fun, something to waste time with. Mindless entertainment at its finest. Okay, so before you all go and get like pitchforks and torches, hear me out, alright? I saw Death Note a few years back and I enjoyed it. It is a good watch up to a point. Okay? The story, I mean, considering the recent Netflix thing, no, I haven't seen that, but it would be kind of surprising to me if you didn't have at least some semblance of what the story is. Basically, we have like Yagami, who is this genius high school student who gets his hands on the titular Death Note, this notebook that if he knows someone's name and their face, he puts that name and face together. Well, obviously you can't like draw the person's face on the paper, but if he knows that person's name, he puts the name down, and he knows what that person looks like, then within sort of a minute or two, unless otherwise stipulated by the writer, that person will die. Very simple. And of course he sets off to rid the world of evil, and ends up in a cat and mouse game. His actions attract the attention of a world-renowned detective, the enigmatic L, and this big game of cat and mouse ensues between the two of them. Okay, so sounds good, doesn't it? Well, yeah, it is. But like I said, up to a point. I've seen this series a couple of different times now. Well, a number of times now. And, okay, full disclosure, I almost didn't put this list on here at all. Okay? Let me see. Maybe I can explain this without spoiling anything. Alright, so certain film endings, think of your favorite film, alright? Now think specifically about the ending. If you have a film and the runtime is just boring, 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 and then explodes into action, you know, in the last say 30 minutes or so are great, and the ending is strong, it sticks with you, right? Certain film endings will stick with you, and the way I see it, they're either memorable in a good way or a bad way. So, a good, memorable ending. Strong, it leaves you, free to think, so you sort of scratch your head and go, okay, so what's going to happen next? And then you get memorable in a bad way. Okay, well, you remember what happened, but you're left there thinking, that's it? What? And that's exactly the kind of ending that Death Note has. I'm not going to go into details, but I watched this series the first time, and I reached the end of the final episode and went, was that it? Seriously? That's how you want to end a series like this? I understand to a point why they did it this way, And no, I haven't read the manga series, but if it ends the same way that the anime did, then I'm not really sure that I want to read it, Obviously, if I do read it, then I hope that the way they ended the anime series, if they do it the same way in the manga series, I hope it's done better in the manga series. I mean, I get what they were going for, but it just felt very tacked on and unnecessary and just forced, There's a point early on in the series, sort of around the halfway point, which would have been perfect. You could have ended the series right there, and fans would have gone crazy. They would have sat there for months going, okay, so this happened, this happened, this happened, what's going to happen next, because we don't know for sure what's going to happen next, right? But this just kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. So it made it onto the list purely because it's an interesting game of cat and mouse. The writing is really intelligent, very mature. Animation, music, characters, they're all likable to a point. I still think the protagonist, if you can even call him that, is a bit of a blank slate to me, at least for the first couple of episodes. But yeah, overall, the cat and mouse element definitely earns it a solid position here at number 6 on my list. So, let's get into the top 5, shall we? Okay, coming in at number 5 real quick, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. This is actually the second list that I'm featuring this series on. Way back when I started doing these videos, I did a top 10 sci-fi anime series video, and this one made the top spot. So I'm a huge fan of the franchise, of the Ghost in the Shell franchise as a whole. And if you're familiar with the franchise, then you know more or less that. Then you'll know I had a lot of anime titles to choose from, more or less. You'll also have a basic idea of what the story is. Basically, we have a special police force, Section 9, and they are tasked with dealing, tasked with the responsibility of dealing with cybercrime. Okay, so guys who can hack your cybernetic enhancements, your cyber brains and your arms and your what have you. And the team that works there is led by the very attractive Major Motoko Kusanagi, and she's just excellent. Now, unless my memory is failing me, because I believe the voice actress for Motoko in this one was Colleen Klinkenbeard, unless I'm mistaken. I could be wrong, but I felt that, and bear in mind, I had a lot of the different animes to choose from the movies to the Arise OVA series to, the new movie, that between the Arise series and the standalone Complex movie and the two Mamoru Oshii films. They're all good, but this was where I felt the character of Motoko Kusanagi was really done the most justice, because if you look at the other films, with the exception of the first two, the 1995 film and then Innocence, if you go back to her manga origins, she clearly thinks of herself as an attractive woman in the manga. She has a killer sense of humor. She's very mischievous. She likes to pull jokes on her boss all the time, and they just keep backfiring. So a lot of the other animes they're all good, but Motoko in each one. Oops, sorry guys, just bumped the camera a little. But in each one, Motoko is either too mechanical or too much of a troublemaker. The humor in the Arise series is great, don't get me wrong, but this was where I felt the balance between the different aspects of Kusanagi's personality really came through. And just in general, the right balance of pretty much everything. Even though the humor and everything is spot on in the other ones, this one was, I think, one of the best ones in the franchise. So, yeah, it made it to the top 5. It's not at number 1 on this list, but top 5 is pretty good. So, let's move on. Okay, so Mobile Suit Gundam 0083 Stardust Memory takes our number 4 spot. And, this is one of the better titles in my opinion. The story follows Ensign Ko Uraki and his flight team as they attempt to prevent the reignition of the 1 Year War, the launch of the 1 Year War again, the relaunch of it, if you will. Okay, so basically, if you're not familiar with this timeline, for those who haven't seen the early entries in the Gundam franchise, the 1 Year War was the first war that was waged in the series. It took place in the Universal Century timeline from 0079 until 0080, between the Earth Federation and the Principality of Zeon. And of course, at the end of the 1 Year War, the Federation won, Zeon lost, right? So Stardust Memory picks up about 3 years after the end of the 1 Year War, And we have Ensign Ko Uraki and his flight team with the Earth Federation, and they're trying to prevent, I've forgotten what the guy's name is, but he's leading a remnant of Giran Zabi's forces. So, Giran was the leader of the Principality of Xi'an, at least until he got shot in the first series. But we have this fragment of the Principality of Xi'an who believe that, the war isn't over yet. They still want to take over the Earth or whatever it was they were doing. And so they're going to basically try to crash another colony into the Earth and start the war all over again. And that's where our protagonists come in, and they have to try and put a stop to it, and they have to prevent it from happening. So the story is pretty basic, if you think about it. Considering that it's only 13 episodes in length, this series has some really good character development, and believe me when I say, the other titles in the franchise really battled for this spot. But considering, just for character development alone, I would put this exactly where it is at number 4. For one thing, the characters are all likable. Ko Uraki has a bit of insecurity about him, very similar to the other protagonists in the franchise. Uraki isn't quite sure of what's going on. The difference here is that almost every member of the cast is military, or military related. So, you're looking at soldiers in their daily lives. You're not looking at civilians suddenly thrown into the mix. Of course, that brings up a whole new realm of possible development. So, yeah, definitely a good series. The character development is solid, and the music was good. The animation, this was made in 1991, unless I'm mistaken, and so the animation at that point was pretty good. And yeah, I know I'm stalling a little bit here, but yeah, animation is solid, very nice to look at. They nailed some of the designs. A lot of the mobile suits look very intimidating. I certainly wouldn't want to be on the business end of one of those. So yeah, alright, I'm losing steam here, so we're quickly going to move into the top 3. Alright, so as we approach the home stretch, coming in at number 3, we have Berserk. Now, this is a series I only saw very recently. Sorry guys, I'm getting a little stiff here. Berserk, and I'm talking about the 1997 series. I haven't seen the sequel series yet. I'm trying to think, but I haven't even read the manga for this one yet. Don't lynch me yet. Based on the manga of the same name by a man named Kentaro Miura, this is a dark fantasy series that is just brilliant. The animation, considering the time period, 90s stuff, this is pretty good. Around the time of 1997, we started getting, from what I understand at least, the market was just flooded with these very gory anime titles that really didn't have much in the way of substance to them. There was very little that you could actually look at and say, okay, I like the story about this. I understand where this is going. And Berserk kind of took that idea and tossed it out the window. You know, the story is very simple. You have the character of Guts, who is this wandering swordsman, and he is recruited, rather unwillingly, into the Band of the Hawk. There's this mercenary group led by a very enigmatic man by the name of Griffith. Griffith. Sorry, guys. And of course, Griffith wants to be a king. You know, he has these ambitions to one day rule a kingdom of his own. So, you know, now take that last line, what I just said. He wants to have a kingdom of his own. And I think you see where the problem comes in, because this guy wasn't born into royalty. Okay, he's a mercenary. He's the leader of a mercenary band. But basically, his ambitions get the better of him. He ends up in a lot of trouble. You know, that his ambitions, just in general, are troublesome. They cause all kinds of problems for everybody. You know, things just go downhill from there. Things just go downhill. You know, as soon as he starts rising through the ranks, and you think, oh, you know, he's going to do it. He's actually going to make it. And then things just go wrong, and they just go from bad to worse. So, yeah. And that's about as much as I can say without spoiling the whole series, assuming I haven't already. Okay, so what did I like about this series? Well, for starters, the animation is really good. The characters are wonderfully done, and yeah, the music is nice. The opening theme, Tell Me Why by the Pen Pals, is just brilliant. It is so catchy. The dark tone, there's a very dark, sort of moody, very uncomfortable tone to the series, which is admittedly very uneven in places. But the scenes that are supposed to be dark and uncomfortable are dark and uncomfortable. And there's a lot of nightmare fuel in this, I have to be honest. But yeah, it's not bad. Story's got a lot of, I mean, it's, like I said, the tone is uneven, but the series has got a lot going for it. There is a lot of gore, or gory imagery. There's a lot of sexual content again as well. And that dark tone extends into the film's sense of humor, if you can even call it a sense of humor. Like I said earlier, I haven't read the manga for this yet, but considering how much I enjoyed the first season, or this 1997 series, I don't think it would be that much of a stretch to say that that I won't enjoy the sequel anime, the 2016 anime series, or the manga as well. So I'm definitely going to check those out at some point. But yeah, it didn't quite make it to the top, but almost. moving on. Okay, so Yoshiaki Kawajiri returns to this list with Ninja Scroll coming in at number 2. How can I put this one? A political thriller involving ninjas. That's basically it. Sign me up. No, really, that's basically the story. You have someone who wants to overthrow the Tokugawa shogunate, and they're trying to buy foreign weapons using secretly mined gold to do so. And basically, that's the general story. We have our characters. The film sort of kicks off with a rather epic fight scene with the main hero. Jubei Kibagami is kind of caught in the middle of this, because on one side you've got the 8 Devils of Kimon. They're the guys that are protecting the gold and doing this kind of doing the bidding of the bad guys, so to speak. And then on the other side of the proverbial map, we have this team of ninjas sent in to investigate this plague that seems to have killed off an entire village. And of course they run into the bad guys, and only one of them makes it out. And then of course you've got Jubei Kibagami, the protagonist of the film, caught right in the middle. Because he's not one of the ninjas sent to investigate the plague, and he's not one of the bad guys. He's just sort of blackmailed into helping this crazy old guy kill off the 8 Devils of Kimon. Overall, not bad. Music and animation is beautiful again. Action scenes are well choreographed and well shot, and they're really, really exciting as well. I mean, you sit there and you watch some of these fight scenes, and I mean, I kid you not, I actually chewed my nails so badly at one point that I had to cut them a lot shorter than I normally would have. Characters in general are likable all around, although the film's gory violence and the sexual content may be a bit off-putting to some viewers. And truth be told, it did actually catch me unawares as well, because I wasn't expecting it. I was just expecting a cool action movie, basically, when I saw it the first time. So, the sort of rampant sexual content and the violence, yeah, it might be a bit off-putting, because not everybody's into that kind of thing. But if you don't mind that kind of stuff, then yeah, this might be a good one. It's a good film to watch regardless, just to try it and see. But I do understand that if you're not a fan of this kind of thing, then you won't really enjoy it. Still, give it a shot if you feel like something different. If you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend it. So yeah, that's at number 2. So what's our number 1 pick gonna be? Alright, so my number one pick. King of Thorn. This spot was so difficult to choose. I mean, I have so many favorites, but to put it all into one list would take forever. And in this case, you know, King of Thorn is the one that, I mean, this was a doozy. The number one spot was a doozy to fill because honestly, I had no idea what I was going to put in here at number one. But in general, I looked at some of these other series, and I looked at a lot of different ones for this spot. But the one that I kept coming back to was King of Thorn. So I eventually just had to give the spot to King of Thorn. And to be honest, I don't really know how many people have seen this, so I'm gonna try not to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. And this is actually, I think, the youngest, or at least the most recent series on this list. Everything else has been sort of 80s and 90s stuff, or early 2000s stuff in the case of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. This film was released in 2010 only, and was based off of a 6-volume manga series. Although they took major liberties apparently when they adapted the manga series to film. And no, I haven't read the manga series, but after watching this film, I'm definitely going to. I certainly want to. So story. Well, essentially we have a mysterious plague killing people. That's basically it. The plague is called the Medusa virus, and this thing is just crazy. It is killing everything in sight. And I mean, okay, just to clear this up, it's called Medusa because it kills you by turning you to stone. That's basically it. So it's a reference to the Gorgon Medusa, whose sight could turn anything to stone. And while this Medusa virus is spreading rapidly and killing everything in sight, basically, this organization called Venusgate shows up, and they basically go, hey, we have this this idea, and they select I forget the exact number, like 150 or 160 people or whatever it is, to try out an experimental cure. It's done at random through lots, and bear in mind this is only a possible cure. The treatment basically involves, according to the film, they don't have the technology yet to come up with a cure for the virus. They know what it is, they know what causes it, more or less, but they don't have the technology or the scientific advancements to cure it, to cure the virus. So their big idea is to put these people into cryogenic sleep, or into cold sleep, as the film calls it, because it apparently slows the heart rate, it slows the metabolism, it slows down everything, including the virus's progression. And these guys are basically going to go into cryo sleep until such time as a cure has been found. Although it doesn't last that long. Basically, these guys get into their cryogenic freezer hibernation chamber things, and then they wake up in what was apparently their facility is now this jungle. They wake up and there's like plants and everything's overgrown, and it looks like a scene out of a horror movie. And there are these massive like monsters running around that they have to dodge if they can. And that's basically it. That's all I'm going to tell you guys about the plot. If you haven't seen the film and I tell you anything more, it's going to spoil it completely. So yeah, I liked this film's animation style, much like the other series on this list. The animation is beautiful, but I think this is the only one on this list, as far as I'm aware, where they used CGI animation as well. So they did some stuff with the traditional cell animation, the hand-drawn stuff, and then they blended that with three-dimensional CGI animation. And it's blended well enough. You don't really notice it unless you're really paying attention. You won't really notice the CGI unless you're really looking for it. The music is great. I love the theme music. It's kind of melodramatic in places, I felt, but it's got such a haunting note to it that you just get chills every time you hear it. And considering how you hardly notice the CG animation unless you're really looking for it, that's quite neat, considering. I mean, if you look at all these films that have come out recently that are all CG, you kind of pick up on it here and there. And when I first saw it, I'd actually just seen Tangled or something like that, which was, of course, all CGI animated. So it wasn't really the best time to watch a film with CGI animation in it, because you've become so aware of it. Now you're watching a film and you see it and you go, "Up, that's CG. Oh look, there it is again." So it's kind of like you ruin the whole experience for yourself. Thankfully, I haven't been so keyed into it. At that point, I'd just seen Tangled sort of for the first time. I watched it out of pure boredom, basically. But it left me sort of keyed into the CG elements. So, but when I saw them, I had to kind of do a double take and go, "Oh, wow, it is actually CG." So, yeah, characters were likable for the most part. I felt that the main character was a bit meh. She's always complaining, she always looks like she wants to complain. About the only character that didn't really irritate me was the little boy in the group. And that's because he's constantly treating it like a big survival game. So, yeah, the action sequences are great. The humor is decent. Sorry guys, mosquitoes. But what really seals the deal for this one, what guaranteed the #1 spot to King of Thorn, was the ending. Okay, and this goes back to what I was saying about Death Note. You get endings that are memorable in good ways, where you're left feeling, satisfied or conflicted. You're not sure what you just watched, but you enjoyed it, but you don't know why you enjoyed it. And you're actually allowed to sort of think and go, okay, so what does this actually mean? And that's exactly what happened with King of Thorn. I've watched this film both in English and in Japanese, with English subtitles, and I'm confused both times. Every time I've watched this film, and I've watched it about 5 or 6 times now, the ending comes around and it just completely messes with my head because I've got no idea what's actually happening. I'm not going to spoil the ending if you haven't seen the film, or at least I'll try not to. I will say it left me scratching my head. I saw it and went, well, okay, that's interesting, but what did I just see? And I kind of had to do this whole double take again, where I go, okay, so this is what you're saying at the start, this is what you're saying at the end, but what have I just seen? Because you're confused, but you're not confused and angry. You're confused and you want to know what happened, but you don't want them to tell you, what's going on exactly. And they do explain sort of what's going on, but by the time the ending comes around and you've sort of processed it, the ending comes around and you don't know anymore. It just doesn't make sense. Which forces you to kind of think and go, okay, well, what did I just see? What did I watch? What does that mean? Was the whole thing just a dream? Which is a frequent thing in this film. It all plays out like a bit of a bad dream. So you're kind of left wondering, was it a dream? Was it not a dream? What's going on here? Okay, so that's all pretty good. Definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it already. If you guys haven't seen it already, please, I can't stress this enough. This is definitely worth watching. You will not regret watching this film. Okay, and coming from a guy who hardly ever recommends anime or manga titles to anyone, okay, this is something that I feel anybody can watch. Not just anime fans or, the members in the anime community in general, but this film is something that I think everybody can kind of just watch and enjoy purely because of what it is, So yeah, definitely check this one out if you haven't already. Yeah. Okay, guys. So that was my 10 of my favorite anime titles and anime films and series. Let me know what you think. Do you agree or disagree with my picks? Why do you agree? Why do you disagree? Are there titles? Do you think that certain titles on this list should have been higher up or lower down? And again, why or why not? You can, as always, you can leave all of that stuff in the comments section below, either on YouTube. All the links and everything will be in the description or on screen right now. But yeah, let me know what you think. You can let me know on the Crazy Nut Reviews Facebook page, on the comment thread below on this video, either on YouTube, or if there's a comment thread on Facebook, yeah, but I'm just trying to think now. You can also go to Twitter, to my Twitter page, once again, or to my Instagram, and everything will be in all the descriptions. Everything, the Crazy Nut Reviews website, the YouTube channel, the Twitter thing, my Instagram, all of that's going to go into the description and on screen here, and you guys can leave your feedback anywhere on those platforms. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun putting it together. It did give me a bit of a headache, I will admit, but hey, such is life. This is, this is what I can do for fun. And with Christmas, basically, well, what's the date today? The date today is the 23rd. Good grief, 2 days. Okay. So, those are my picks. This was, as I said in the intro, this is a continuation of a 4-video challenge that I kind of walked right into. I set up a poll and asked, top 10 anime or manga review. And someone said to do both, so I decided, well, I'll do both. I didn't realize it would be such a challenge. So, with the end of this video, I still have my anime review to make and my manga review to make, and you guys, I do sort of have an idea of what I want to review now. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, let me know what you think of the video, what you think of my list. If you haven't seen my top 10 manga series list, I'll put a link to that up as well. And yeah, I'll see you all again for the next one, where I do my manga review. I haven't even picked out a series to review yet, so just bear with me on that. I don't even know when the next one's going to come out, because like I said, today's the 23rd of December. Christmas is Monday. I actually meant to have this shot a while ago, so I just never got around to it. But yeah, I'll see. Maybe I definitely want to get it done before the end of the year, before the start of 2018. So yeah, either Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve night, maybe. Oh boy, here we go again. I'm rambling. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. At the end of one of the next 2 videos, when I finish up this challenge, when I finish up the 4-video thing, I will be doing some stuff. I'll explain some stuff for next year, share some plans for the channel for next year. So definitely tune into that. And if you guys like the video and you want to see more content, then obviously, leave a like on the video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you for the next one. Until next time, thanks for watching.